I don't agree with every single of the most right-wing conservative views, but I want someone in the arena representing them. Because if you have someone pulling very hard to the left and someone trying to stick to the middle, you're going to go to the left. If you want to stay in the middle and someone's pulling really hard to the left, you have to pull really hard to the right, because then you'll end up in the middle.
That's exactly what seemed to happen with O'Toole. He just fell right
He
to the
decided to go to the middle, and everything got
Not
pulled
even
to
the
the
middle,
left. First thing we got to talk about, because it's insane, is the real-life minority report happening in Canada. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? Thoughts on this?
I've heard briefly about it.
Well, for the people who don't know, let me just do the headline. So here's a headline from the Globe and Mail, published February 28. Justice Minister defends house arrest power for people feared to commit a hate crime in future.
Well, I think we all knew it was going to get here eventually with this Trudeau leadership. I mean, we were going down the road of you're guilty just because we think you're guilty. I think that's kind of where we've always been headed. But a big part of that was the truckers, where they're like, hey, you can't do things because we said you can't. So they just, froze bank accounts and stuff. Similar with this one, where they're just like, hey, in the future, we don't like maybe what you're going to do. We're going to give you house arrest and other punishments. Like you can't use the internet and stuff, right? Like they block you from the internet, which is pretty much mandatory in this day and age.
Yeah, so the peace bond could have conditions that include not being close to a synagogue or a mosque. It could also lead to restrictions on internet usage and behavior. That would help to de-radicalize people who are learning things online and acting out in the real world violently, sometimes fatally. So, that can be interpreted the way that he wants it to be interpreted, which is great. People who are turning into violent people by reading things online is like, oh, let's avoid that. Or you could interpret it another way, which is people are actually learning facts that are counter to the narrative that we're presenting. And we don't like that. And we'd like to get a handle on that to continue to, as Trudeau put in the video last week, remember when CTV and CBC were the only sources of news and they could project a common understanding of things across Canada. So
when they were,
after saying that and then hearing the Justice Minister saying, people are learning things online and we need to de-radicalize them and sort of stop that.
Well, it's very, you don't want people reading, right? Like they found that in the Middle Ages, right? That was a big problem where human beings actually got to read and have their own thoughts and opinions. And that's not, you can't tolerate that.
Yeah, those pesky serfs.
Those serfs. Yes. In this day and age, Trudeau does not want us horrible plebs to think for ourselves.
It sounds ridiculous, but they literally have blocked news on Meta apps, right? So there's that. It's just so ridiculous. And of course, the Liberals spun it as though, we're protecting Canadian journalism. But it's at the end of the day, traffic to the CBC dropped because of the news blocking on Meta. So your intervention, as usual, does the opposite as your intended effect. So anyway, it's just you say that's about controlling the narrative and people will call you a cynic or a conspiracy theorist. It's there's so many reasons to be cynical. Yeah. So excuse me.
It used to be so covert, you didn't really see it happening. And now it's just blatantly it's what
all day. It forced me to create a YouTube channel.
What was the one thing? It was the lies are no longer adult lies. They're now children lies. It's too easy to see that they're lies. There's always been lies.
Who said that?
Oh, I think it was Eric Weinstein.
Okay, that's not bad. Yeah.
So it was it's before we had adult lies where you could be maybe that's real. But now they're just the lies that a child tells you, where you find a box of wrappers under their bed and they're like, I don't know. Well, I don't know why HNC Lavaland is getting all this money.
Well, the worst is that there's no repercussions, at least not yet. There's no accountability.
Everything slides off this guy. He has scandal after scandal. I remember Harper had a scandal where he paid one company, it was an energy company that, would actually need $1 billion. He paid him $20 million more than he should have. And it was a scandal for a year and a half. And this guy just that would be, you wouldn't even hear about it.
Sure, like any large waste of taxpayers' money, like that should be a scandal, but it also should have repercussions.
Oh, for sure. But there's none. It's like he just skips to the next one. It's like he has a bunch of scandals in his roster, and like when one of the scandals is getting too many eyes on it, he just does a bigger scandal to the others, and then they're like, oh.
That's what it seems like.
Forget about
Which is
the
a
old
weird
one.
strategy, but it seems to be working. Well,
it's like whack-a-mole.
The polls indicate that it has an end date to how long that can work.
I sure hope so. Yeah. But I would not be surprised if for some reason he gets another minority government for some reason. We don't know how. Like, it just keeps happening.
Well, what if the Liberals and the NDP merged? It might as well. I guess then it would be like this is basically them combined is what the Conservatives are polling at. It's like that'd be like an even match.
It would, but is there even like, do you even meet? Have you ever met a single person that said NDP? I've never met anyone who's ever said, I love NDP or I love the Liberals. So where are these people coming from?
I guess we don't hang out with them. Well,
I guess not, but like,
no, I mean, I voted Trudeau the first time, right? There's just people change. You give a person a shot.
I think I voted Green.
You see what happens.
The first time, like in 2015 or whatever, or way back when. So yeah, I guess like we do change, but I mean, it's getting pretty ridiculous that I haven't met anybody. I haven't met anybody who's like proud of Trudeau, who's like, yeah, I really like these initiatives. I got a few people that are like, yeah, I like his green initiatives, but it's like, those are all pie in the sky kind of things. So I don't know. It's disheartening.
Well, some of them exist, but what was interesting, I was hearing it was like Nanos polling or whatever. So the percentage of voters that would even consider the Liberals as an option is shrunk to like 30%. So like first time around when Trudeau was leading the party, it was like 70% of voters had Liberals as like maybe I would vote for them. But now it's only like a majority of Canadians are like no fucking chance on the Liberals, not even considering it.
Would they do NDP though?
Maybe. I don't remember what he said
me,
about that.
I wonder if Jagmeet Singh is even more hated than Trudeau is on some levels.
I mean, to me, they're essentially the same. The only reason Trudeau is worse is he's the one with the power. If Jagmeet was the one with the power, he would be worse.
He's kind of got power. He's got them to do these two ridiculous bills and all these random things that they have him doing, like the dental.
Yes, he has
like
some
they keep
power.
throwing all that stuff in, but it's like, at some point, who's the worst guy? Is it?
Well, it actually, to that point, maybe it is him because he should have. You stopped propping the government up a long time ago based on what they've been doing.
Yeah, especially when he's like, I'm at odds with these things, but I'm still going to vote for it because why? Like, there's no...
Well, everyone says it's because he wants his pension.
It's the underpants gnome. But like, really? It's like, what's your pension? Like $100,000 a year? Is that the real reason? He's probably getting so many more like random kickbacks here and there, allegedly. This is alleged.
Allegedly. Yeah, I don't know. Well, say, even if that is happening, does that happen for the rest of your life? Like, are you going to stay in politics the whole time?
I don't know, but like how many more years does he need for pension? I hope this
there's
is the last.
Rebel News, I believe, set up a website to count down to it. It's like JagmeetSingsPayday.com or something. I think it's basically like
That's
a year
hilarious.
left or something like, yeah.
It's because like, man, like what? I don't understand his rationale. It's like, you're the little bitch to Trudeau. You want to be that? Like that is scum.
I mean, let's give him the benefit of the doubt for a second, even though I'm not really going to. Like what he says
that's fair.
Right. Like, he's fighting to get the pharmacare deal or whatever, which apparently isn't even really a deal, or it's like way less in scope than what it was promised. It was like diabetes medication and
I don't
something
know.
else.
I don't trust it.
But it's like, doesn't a huge percentage of his party feel like they're not getting what is promised from the leadership?
Right, like so. But that's
know.
what I mean. If he's failed and Trudeau's failed, how are they going to beat the Conservatives in the next election? And if they do, something's fishy about that. That's what I'm trying to say.
Sure, but don't start going down that road.
I guess.
Anyway, back to the last thing I want to talk about on this house arrest article, for pre-crime.
Oh, right, the pre-crime.
Wow, this is started. So Bill C-63 is designed to curb the proliferation of hate online, but it also establishes a new hate crime offense, which would carry a maximum penalty of life imprisonment. Mr. Varani said the hate crime offense would only be applied if coupled with another crime, and the life sentence would only apply in the most serious of cases, not, for example, for mischief to a garage door. Well, that's good to know.
Wait, to a garage door?
Yeah, I guess it's like painting a slur on a garage door or something.
I thought that was like a certain thing I needed, a vernacular I needed to know. This garage door is one of the new genders or something. I don't know.
Jesus Christ. So he goes, what's really critical is that it gives the judge a wonderful range of sentences. This is not a mandatory minimum of a life sentence, just a larger range, including what would be the maximum sentence.
For online hate.
Yeah.
So,
and some constitutional experts have raised fears that it could chill free speech. You don't say.
you don't say. When it's so vague that anything you say can be determined as hate speech, yeah, it might have a little chilling effect.
Yeah, okay, so here's basically the part that makes it relatable. So the bill would allow people to file complaints to the Canadian Human Rights Commission over what they perceive as hate speech online. What they perceive, including, for example, off-color jokes by comedians. Yeah, we're already fucked. People found guilty of posting hate speech could have to pay victims up to $20,000 in compensation. So you are allowing people to decide what they perceive as hate speech, and then you're essentially going to give them up to $20,000 for filing complaints. That's not going to be abused at all.
No, I can't see. Whereas when the incentive is to just say that somebody is hateful towards you so you can get 20 grand, I can't see that going wrong at all.
Is there a subsection of the population that has a mentality of being a victim and is constantly offended by innocuous statements, literally everything, their own existence in a binary sex? Like,
that's right. Well, I mean, cha-ching. Maybe this is like one of their promises, like their if you vote for us, we'll give you a free $20,000, and this is how they'll facilitate that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean it is.
But it's wild how it's if you are perceived you might commit a crime in the future, you can get house arrest.
So like, what does that mean? So somebody decides they don't like your off-color joke. They say that's hate speech. They take you to this Canadian Human Rights Commission. And that commission's filled with leftists who agree, and they charge you $20,000 for a joke that one person decided they didn't like. Yeah. Now you have a record of hate speech and hate crimes. Yeah. So perhaps now they can say, well, there's a good chance you're going to do that again in the future. So
no, they'll say, take my reprogramming training course.
You say no.
You said no.
Or fail it because it's absurd.
Yeah.
And then
you said no, you're in the future you're going to do this.
Yeah,
again.
We can't trust you with the internet anymore. So stay in your house, no alcohol, no internet.
Do you feel like this bill was designed specifically for Jordan Peterson just so they could squash him once and for all?
I mean, it's insane.
They're like, we still haven't got him. We keep trying. He won't take our things. Let's get him, boys. That's my Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, I mean, especially if they're saying if it could like apply retroactively to things you posted years ago. When
did it say that it can?
When this legislation didn't exist. I've seen opinions to that effect on Twitter.
That's the speeding one, right? Like X. When they give you a ticket for speeding in a place, so they just take the speed limit down from 50 to like 40. And you did 50 the other day, so they give you a ticket because you did, even though at the time you did the right speed, you should have known to be going 40.
Well, how about this? I guarantee you could find jokes done by CBC, like in This Hour's 22 Minutes or something from years ago that are now considered completely obtuse and not allowed. So is everyone at the CBC liable for participating in this hate crime of like admitting there are only two sexes in a video they probably did years ago? Like,
well, they'll have to do that. What's it called? Where you become an ally again? They'll have to do that program. They'll summons everybody from This Hour's 22 Minutes, even though they're all super old now, and they'll be like, hey, you have to get your re-education.
Well, it'll be a daily cult ritual. In the morning, it'll be like essentially confession. You have to do confession every day. Like,
we're here, folks. This is ridiculous. This is like, we're making this as a joke, but this could happen. Like, not me. Hopefully not this serious, but like, we're getting there, right? Like this bill being drafted is scary enough that we should be concerned. Like, this is ridiculous.
And, people will point out like, oh, it's about, protecting children. It's like, yes, of course we need...
They couched it in the whole, no child porn. Well, I think we can all get behind.
We can all get behind that.
Harsher punishments for child pornography. But like, then you add all this other shit on the side. It's like, okay, I see what you're doing here. Again, it's the adult. It's the child lies instead of the adult. It's like, we can see what you're doing. You're throwing it in this bill you say is for like strengthening.
Well, it's when you put the hate language everywhere. It's like hate speech, hate crime. It's like,
what is it?
based on how we've seen you define things and how the left has tried to redefine everything in the past 5 years or 10 or whatever, those words don't mean what they should mean.
No.
Racism, hate, bigotry, these words no longer mean
Nazi,
what they
fascist.
and like before this stuff started going crazy, I had maintained like, oh, it won't infect like the legal system, like the judicial system,
No,
right?
those
It won't get to the top levels of our government and society. Like there's too much reason. Our system is built on rationality. Like it won't happen. But unfortunately, the system is only as good as the people like fulfilling it and occupying it and maintaining it.
I was getting pretty scared until they finally, the one judge said that the trucker convoy and the freezing of assets was illegal. That's up until that point, I was like, oh, geez,
That
we're in trouble.
terrified me, dude. There had never been a time before when I had honestly thought of like, oh, should I leave Canada? Like, is it actually possible to save this place? Like, if you have judges saying like, yeah, that was okay. Like, I have a very different interpretation of what justice is than these people.
It's been getting out of hand where it's like, if you're at all like center or right of center, you're wrong. Whatever you're doing is wrong. And, even in the laws, they're kind of doing where you thought you had protection, you no longer have it. And it's getting scary where I have the same thing. I have the conversation with my family. Like, it's time to jump ship.
I mean, I'd much rather fight metaphorically for the country that I was born and raised in,
Well, for sure.
and like restore it to sanity. Be
part
part of that effort.
I was just telling my partner. I was just telling my partner that
Say wife. What the fuck is wrong with you?
My partner, that if he gets in one more time, like, what do we do? Like, seriously, because like
I don't think it'll happen. It can't happen. It can't happen.
But like, if he does, what do we do? Like, it's the part where it's like you see the ship you're on is filling with water.
I'll have a lot more YouTube content, I guess.
I guess, yeah, that's true. That's one.
It's one thing I can do.
You're good.
Okay, this is the real thing I wanted to talk about with you when you were here, and thank you for coming. And this is the Go F You Newscast, and here we are with Schmitty. Fired Winnipeg scientist involved in gain-of-function research at Wuhan lab, where Canada sent virus samples. What the fuck?
Yeah, it seems like Canada started. COVID.
I mean, yeah, you can't say that, but. Here's a little tidbit from an article from the Sam Cooper from the Bureau, saying that while working for Canada and surreptitiously transferring lethal virus samples to China,
Canceled.
This Chinese woman was enlisted to lead Wuhan Institute of Virology's synthetic bat filovirus project with the institute's vice director, a senior Chinese scientist that worked in 2015 on a controversial United States hybrid version of a bat coronavirus. And this evidence, yet to be reported from hundreds of redacted documents released by Canada's government, suggests that Xiangyu, the Chinese woman, was likely working directly with the Chinese virologist at the center of the COVID-19 Wuhan lab leak theory. This woman, known as, quote, the Bat Woman for her bat vaccine studies in China, reportedly a deputy director for the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Is it a theory still?
I don't. I mean, so Sam goes on to like say that no government has concluded that COVID-19 emanated from the virology lab. Last year, a number of Western intelligence agencies, including the FBI and I believe the Department of Energy in the States, which is a weird one, but told the public they do believe that most likely...
And the Clown Committee.
And the Department of Clowns. The cause was the Chinese scientists were working with bat viruses that leaked into the Wuhan's population in 2019. This controversial assessment is far from unanimous, though.
So... because it's not unanimous, they could just say theory.
Yeah, but as Jon Stewart funnily pointed out on Colbert's show, the name of the lab is the name of the virus. Like, it's like if there is an outbreak of chocolatey goodness in Hershey, Pennsylvania, it might be the fucking factory.
Yeah, no, we're still at the stage where we're pretending like, oh no, it's not. It's just a theory. But it seems like Canada had a big part in. Having illegal spies come take our information, take all the stuff we had on these horrible viruses, and then transfer them back to the Wuhan lab. Like it's
Yeah, and then if that wasn't bad enough, then Liberals take the Speaker of the House to court, prevent the release of these documents when they were first requested, and then an election was called. I mean, and the conspiracy theorist in me says likely, or at least a bonus for them as far as they were concerned, was because then this was dropped as something that was before the House.
which is weird. Like, how do you just take someone to court and then not have to release something?
Well, because they claimed it was national security reasons, like that they couldn't release it.
Didn't the new one just say they did it because they didn't want to look like assholes?
Well, and then yeah, so they put together a special committee of MPs, and they were like, yeah, well, some of it's national security, but some of this was you just wanted to spare these agencies embarrassment. Like the lapses are ridiculous. The emails now that you can see talking about, where's the sample of Ebola going again? It's like, I just sent her on to Wuhan, and like nobody asks any fucking questions. Oh man, and some of the stuff, like, so the Chinese scientists allowed visitors into the lab who should not have had access to anything, and they had access to the computer systems, and they tried to like walk out the front door with these vials of stuff.
Did they at least ask them before they came in? They're like, "Are you affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party?" And they're like, "Oh no, we know."
No, oh my god, canceled.
No.
So yeah, and she was lying all the time when on CSIS reported like they were present her with evidence of like, yeah, you're obviously doing this, and they're like, no, I'm not connected with China, even though I was born there, and I'm clearly working with them. Yeah. Like sending samples to someone in the army, the People's Liberation Army or whatever, PLA.
Well, I mean, the army's not going to do anything bad with highly deadly viruses.
It's like their biotechnology unit for like creating bioweapons. Yeah, that's a great idea.
No, they're good people. Just give them a chance. The PLA, they're good folk.
And then so one of the deliveries to the lab was marked for the Chinese person was marked kitchen utensils, and it was that mouse protein inside it.
Well,
oh my god, yeah, those
depending on how clean your kitchen is, there's probably mouse protein all over
kitchen utensils. So this is all very normal and nothing to worry about.
So what do you think will happen?
No, I don't know. What do you mean? Like,
is anybody going to get in trouble for this? Is Trudeau's head going to fly for being the watch guy?
What do you think? Has anything ever happened to that guy for anything?
Being a little facetious here, but yeah, it's another scandal that just will do nothing. There'll be no action taken.
It's Teflon Trudeau.
I don't know how he gets away with it. I guess he's pretty. I still am of the...
I guess he's pretty. Everyone needs to stop fucking saying that.
So pretty. Can you imagine if you were pretty? You get away with so much stuff. God.
Yeah, it is pretty great.
I wish fuck you. Spare change. But yeah. No, it's we're at a state where I'm just at a loss of words. I'm like, I'm almost saddened. Like it's hard to...
It is hard to like, yes, even summon the energy to get, like list the number of things at this point. Just think about it for a moment. So imagine for a second that this scientist working in Winnipeg was actually directly involved with the creation of COVID. So what you have...
It seems like it's more than likely.
It seems somewhat likely. So you have government lapse, which leads to this. And then rather than tackling it head on and trying to like contain the problem, they're just like, no, let's block this so it doesn't come out. What a bad job we've done. Yeah. And then,
well, it worked when CBC and CTV News was what everyone saw, right?
That's true. They could project a common understanding across the country.
Common understanding that nothing to see here, right? Like that's.
But then it's like, yeah, so let's block the release of those documents. Then let's call an election before they could possibly get out so that we can get ahead of it and, get another 5 years in.
They're good at politics.
Then during that election, by the way, we're going to say that it's the most dangerous pandemic ever, but we're going to call an election anyway. So there's that aspect of it.
That was hilarious. How beforehand he was talking about how, I think it was just months before he called it, he was like, we're not calling an election. It's too dangerous.
Was that also when he said we're not a country that makes vaccines mandatory?
Yes.
Yeah, that was around that time. Yeah. And then...
well, they're not mandatory.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah, and then so calling the unnecessary election during the dangerous pandemic, spending the tens of millions of dollars on it, and then using like a wedge issue of the vaccinations. The clips of him yelling about how they're putting our kids at risk, and those people, it's and like we shouldn't tolerate them, and do like they're misogynists, they're racist. Like, does he hear himself?
I think he said many of them are misogynists, so not all of them. So maybe you're just one of the ones that aren't. Did you ever think about that?
Yes.
No, it's and he's on film, and then he's like, I didn't do that.
Well,
that's French.
That is the craziest part, is like that he just fucking denies it, and then everything about him drives me nuts. So he does all that, spews hate and division, and then immediately turns around and says, "Look at the conservatives; they're spewing hate and division." And it's like, well, that is what you are doing.
Last election, I feel this is me personally. I feel like what was it, O'Toole? Mm-hmm. He was our guy, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't he like guy. Conservative guy, whatever.
He wasn't my guy.
Not Trudeau guy. He wasn't my guy either. It was like everything he was running on was basically the Liberals' platform.
It was insane. It's like, are you a conservative?
It was the weirdest thing. I was like, okay, I guess I got to vote for a different.
Like, I don't agree with every single of the most right-wing conservative views, but I want someone in the arena representing them. Because if you have someone pulling very hard to the left and someone trying to stick to the middle, you're going to go to the left. If you want to stay in the middle and someone's pulling really hard to the left, you have to pull really hard to the right, because then you'll end up in the middle.
That's exactly what seemed to happen with O'Toole. He just fell right
He
to the
decided to go to the middle, and everything got
Not
pulled
even
to the
middle.
left.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's so obvious. I mean, Jordan Peterson goes on about it all the time, and I completely agree. It's like he ceded all of the ground. He lost before he started when he let them set the terms of the debate, set the terms of when he just implicitly agreed with all of their ideology by letting them dictate all of the terms. It's like, you've already lost, because you can't be a conservative and step into the arena and say, yeah, obviously I believe that non-binary people exist, and you can just and biological males should use female change rooms. If you just concede to that right out of the gate, it's like, well, you've already lost a huge number of your conservative voters. They're not going to vote for you now. So you've lost.
It's that little step at a time, and it's just they kept pushing and pushing, and there was no pushback. And you need to have both liberals and conservatives, and if you are absent of one, the society kind of just tumbles, because you get that positive feedback loop where you just get everyone going to the left, and they got to get crazier and crazier and crazier. You need that tug and pull of the conservative who wants things to stay similar, and the liberals who want things to change, because the liberals are the more creative types, and you get that innovation and stuff from the creatives, and the conservatives are like, this business works, let's continue to make this business work. Let's not break what's working.
Yeah.
And you need the push and pull of those two things.
Exactly.
And when you have fully the one side, either the left or the right, like you saw in Nazi Germany, where you see their efficiencies got pretty scary pretty fast, right? Not good. And then but you have now where you have the whole communist thing, where you get the left pushing on that one side. It unravels. And that's why every time you have, a super left-leaning government, it always goes, and it's communist, it always spirals into a tyranny, because it's like, you have to have the push and pull. Without the push and pull, with the push and pull, we're in the center. Without the push and pull, we just fly off.
One way or the other. And I obviously completely agree. And it seems to be like with most things in life, where what you want is moderation. You want that middle ground. That's the best. Too much of anything is not good. Not enough of things you need, not good, right? You drink too much water, you're going to die. Yeah. So it's moderation and everything.
This shows up really well. And then look at the treatment of homosexuals in the last, forever, right? If you look 100 years ago, you were seen as a deplorable and a horrible person, and whatever. But throughout time, even the most right-wing people, I think, well, probably not the most right-wing, but right-wing people don't see anything wrong with being gay, right?
It's a really, really minority view, I think, right now in society to have an issue with gay people being gay.
So, and it's we've already that's progress, and that's made. So I would consider myself conservative, but that's not right. My thoughts aren't, gay people are bad. No, I've gone left a little bit, right? Because I've matured, and these push and pulls have come where the society, it becomes more coherent and
that was a cultural shift that was I think good.
Very good.
Yeah,
I think it's very good.
Obviously, like
So, but these are the things that happen when you have the push and pull. If you had just left, or if you had just right people the whole time, you wouldn't have had, and there wouldn't be any of the love for gay people there is now, and that'd be wrong, right? We'd see that that's wrong. In the same way that it's wrong to go pushing completely to the left here, and we're now just allowing anybody to be anything they want to be on the whim.
So it's like, yeah, the extreme that we've gotten to is that now not only should people who aren't the majority be accepted, now they should be celebrated and elevated above everyone else because of whatever reason they're not part of the majority. And so, and the smaller your minority, well, the more celebrated and elevated you should be. So we've gotten to the point now where being gay isn't enough. Yeah. Now you need to be like a trans kid.
The Modern Family, where the guy's like, he was one of the gay guys on Modern Family was applying for a job, and he's like, oh, I'm gay, and they're like, if you were trans, that'd be,
What season was this?
It was like season 3 or 4. And
really? That was a long time ago.
It was like 2016.
Yeah.
But like it was the whole kind of gays kind of passé now. It's usually that, and I always found that funny because it's absurd. But now that's just normal, right? Like it's actually truth.
Ahead of its time, man. Yeah, that reminds me, like Danny Polchuk has a YouTube video, kind of like Who's on First style with pronouns, and I was like, it's really funny. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, that's hilarious. And then I looked at the date and I was like, oh my God. Because it's like, I don't know, 3 or 6 years. Like it basically was way before like any of this stuff came onto my radar. Yeah. So I was like, how does it, because it was very funny. It was like so far ahead of its time. Sometimes people.
I remember telling Amy like in like 2015, I'm like, it's going to get worse. It's going to continue to get worse. We're going to see more of this crazy stuff. And they're like, what are you talking about? We don't see it anywhere. And now she's in her like Facebook groups and they're total like, if you say anything that goes against the Orthodox, you just get fucking wrecked.
Well, it's wild to me that it's infiltrating medicine. Like the fact that you see in official publications now the terms like birthing person instead of fucking mother.
Well, I was filling out a health form the other day for whatever online website I had to apply to get my test results back, and it was like there was sex, gender. Whatever the next one is,
need one box.
No, it was like sex, gender, what you identify as. There was like another box for that. There was like 3 different boxes, and I was like, and they were obviously I left them all blank because fuck.
I'm an amorphous blob.
Yeah, so like it's getting a little crazy.
I saw a funny meme of like sometimes it'd be like only 90s kids will remember this, and it's like a yo-yo or something, and it was like only 90s kids will remember this, and it was a picture of select your sex, male, female.
Yeah. And it's true now because it's like whatever you want to be, whatever you feel like, and we used to say that kids would think that they're a T-Rex or would think that they're a car, or, we wouldn't affirm them that. We wouldn't say you are a T-Rex.
All right, time to get your tires changed.
But now it's just like, if it's anything to do with gender, no, it's 100% affirmation or you're in trouble. I was watching this one, Jordan Peterson, where he was talking to this family that didn't affirm their daughter.
Oh, is that a recent one?
It's recent. Yeah. And this daughter had like mental issues. And she had no outward signs of being transgender. But then one day they got a phone call being like, hey, Steve didn't come to work or something. And they're like, who the hell's Steve? And they found out it was their daughter who's going by Steve now at work. And anyways, long story short, they took the child away. And the child's now reaffirmed.
Wait, so they were working? So were they like 17 years old or something?
They were 14.
Okay,
so
they
took
like,
the 14-year-old away.
Like had just gotten like their first job or something.
Yeah, they had just gotten their first job and they were working at, I think maybe it was 15 at the time. I can't remember the exact details, but because they wouldn't affirm that their daughter, who they knew had like problems with like just basically telling lies, she was she would lie a lot. They wouldn't accept that we're going to call you Steve or whatever it was. They actually the system came and took it away. The whole story is wild. It's just like. Well, anytime the system was against the parents from the start.
Anytime like the state is taking children away from parents, it's like you want to make damn sure that you have a good reason to do that. And the scary, like, I mean, I obviously don't have kids, but like it terrifies me to think that if I did, like the state could come and be like, your child is claiming to be something that to look at them, they're not. So therefore, if you disagree with this, we're just going to take them away from you.
Yeah,
that's terrifying.
It's gotten to crazy town where you just take the kid's word on things. We never did that in the past.
No, there's a reason. There's so many reasons
kids
you don't just trust kids.
Do you know how stupid we were as kids? We were so stupid. And if you could say, hey, you're a loser, you know, you're not feeling good about yourself, but if you do these certain steps and pretend to be something you're not, you're going to get a lot of accolades and people are going to love you. And we would all do it. Like, it makes sense why the numbers are going so much higher.
Yeah, you're just reminding me of a Babylon Bee headline I saw. Basically, for those who don't know, it's a satirical news, like comedy news thing.
They're hateful bigots.
Yeah. Anyway, it was just like something along the lines of, surprising number of kids want to join world's most celebrated group.
It is surprising.
Right? Like, what are the odds? So
I looked into more of that, the 50-year-old competing with the 14-year-old man competing with the 14-year-old women.
Was this in swimming? Yeah.
Swimming in it was in Ontario, I think.
I think it was.
And basically, I looked into it because I'm like, this can't be serious. Apparently, it's true. But it was an open-ended in terms of age, so any age group could join it. So I think the second oldest was a 17-year-old. So next to so when they add that, it's a 50-year-old swimming with women. Technically, it's not as bad as it sounds.
I suppose, the way you frame things is important.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, yeah, you framed it a little dishonest, but it's still pretty creepy that they're allowing this kind of thing.
Sure, I would agree with that. But yeah, as much as like we rip on the left-wing media for framing things in a way that we disagree with, it's like if the right-wing media is also guilty of that sometimes.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just it. Like, I like to make sure I'm looking at things through a critical lens. Like, I don't want to just be raw, Trudeau bad.
Oh, well, of course. I'm not, like, you don't want to be blinded, right? You don't want blinders on. It's so funny. Okay, yeah, well, this brings up a point where Trudeau's always going on about how, like, people are misinformed and that's why they're angry. You know, all the misinformation and disinformation, and they're being misled and that's why they're upset. It's like, no, dude, I read CBC, alone, CBC, for like the first year and a half of the pandemic. All I needed was that information. So if your government-funded news agency provides me with the rosiest version of facts, and I still detest you and hate every decision you've made, then it's not misinformation or disinformation. I just really think you're doing a terrible job and are a horrible human being because of the things that you've done. Yeah. So it's so funny to hear him go on about like, oh, people are just angry because they're misinformed. It's like, no, they're just informed. We just know what you've done, and we hate it.
It's the child lies again. It's like, stop lying to us. Your child.
Don't spit on my face and tell me it's raining.
Give us a good lie. Come on. Give us a good reason.
And meanwhile, let's completely neglect our military and sense of national unity and a national narrative. Completely demoralize the population. The military can't recruit anyone, and it's no wonder why. Who wants to go potentially sacrifice your life for an organization that calls itself systemically racist? So it's like, what, you're going to participate in this systemic racism, or in this probably That's genocide right. too, is always referring to itself as that. So nobody wants to go die for that. And also we're going to elevate people based on characteristics that are nothing to do with merit. Yeah, so it's like, why would I go volunteer for an organization that elevates people not based on merit, that I'm going to risk my life for a country that hates me because of my skin color? No thanks.
Or because of your sex.
And we're going to cut the budget too, and it's just so asinine. I don't understand. To me, these decisions would only be made if you were actively trying to harm the country.
That's what it seems like.
Because I don't understand why. Why would you not fund the military? First of all, you have a very clear target, and it's a small one, 2%. I think we should fund more than 2%.
I mean, I think we have the idea that we can just mooch off the Americans, and
even if we could, I wouldn't want to. Why would you not want to be a country that can stand on its own 2 feet and punch above your weight? Why would you not want that?
That's a good question.
We have all these natural resources. We have a pretty intelligent population, right? Like
Relatively speaking.
relative. Like we have the capability of producing good technology. We've seen good technology come out of Canada,
Well, we used to be on par with them.
right?
I mean, we used to be able to. We had the high end and some manufacturing, and now we have no manufacturing and we have no high end left. So we're kind of screwing ourselves. Where we once were super competitive, we're losing that competitive edge, and I can't see us getting it back, because in order to be competitive, you have to be efficient, and we're so inefficient now with our bureaucracy and our lack of meritocracy that it's going to be hard to get it back.
Yeah, and when you have DEI bleeding into even like the math and engineering departments at universities, it's like we're not even going to be producing capable people anymore.
And you bring in these people from other countries, and they realize, hey, you guys sold us a bill that we were going to be like, living in a nice country, and they see what it's become, and they all leave.
Yeah,
all the smart ones go south.
I'm curious. I've seen a couple things on social media now of like immigrants talking about how they're leaving, and I wonder like how real they are, or how many people are actually feeling like that.
I bet it's if the current people that live here are feeling that way. I bet if you just came here and realized how shitty it is, like unless you're coming from a much 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 worse situation.
Yeah, I mean, like unless the government is giving you such a big handout that it negates the insane high cost of living and rent and everything. So
yeah, like I can't imagine moving and trying to survive in Toronto. Like, what are you going to survive off of? You can't live anywhere.
Well, that's why the Trudeau towns are everywhere. The 10 cities.
The 10 cities. Yeah, I saw one in Hamilton the other day. That was fun. I'm like, oh, let's go. I had to drop my wife off somewhere, and it was like 10 city, and I was like, we can't get out of the car here. There's thousands of like what looked like drugged up people just kind of walking around like zombies. It's like
that's the compassionate thing to let them do that, right?
And there's so many more like people on the streets with like spare change signs, and I look at them and I'm like, you have nicer clothes than I'm wearing.
Well, you do tend to dress,
but still, like I am slightly homeless, but unhoused.
Is that still the current term? Maybe there's a new one. They probably come out with one every day.
Yeah, it's the houseless or something. Houseless. But yeah, they just keep slightly rearranging the words and then to say it's more,
I don't understand.
More compassionate.
That's so funny to me. You can't say, oh, it's people of color, right? People of color is the right one to say.
That's the right one.
Are you
allowed to? No, actually, I think that's not allowed.
No, that's the right one. It used to be, like years ago, it was colored people, but you can't say that one anymore. That's the wrong one now. But they literally just switched where the words were and of.
Yeah.
So,
and fixed it.
It's better now.
Fixed.
In 100 years, they're going to switch it back.
No, it's. I think it's fixed. That's switching just the two things.
It's like how they say, like, it's rude to say retarded. It's like, that just used to be the clinical.
For being late. Yeah.
Whatever you make the clinical accepted term, kids on the playground will use that as an insult, and it will become the thing you can't say. Yeah. That's what these people don't get. It's like you try to say language you can't say. It's like whatever language you say you can say, people will use it in a funny way, and then it will become the new insult. Right? Because it used to be like, oh, you can't say retarded, say disabled. Well, then, that became an insult. If your kid on the playground called you disabled, obviously it was meant as an insult if you weren't in a wheelchair or something.
Yeah, the big one was gay when we were kids. Everything was gay. You can't say gay, but everyone was like, that's gay.
Yeah, well, it's pretty gay that you can't say gay.
Yeah, it is gay. But I mean, like, even that's run its course, right? Like, gay is no longer... It's too accepted now. It's not enough of a buzzword.
Well, I think it's so funny they brought queer back because
queer.
when I was a kid,
that was the bad one.
You weren't allowed to say queer. Yeah. Calling something a queer, that was worse than saying gay.
Yeah, that's right up with the F word, the FA word.
Maybe they'll bring that one back.
Maybe the bundle of sticks word.
Yeah, the cigarettes in the UK word.
Yeah, that's right. So like that'll eventually become the.
I don't want this video flagged, so I'm not gonna say.
That'll be the proper word to say eventually instead of gay, and we'll go from there.
Man, yeah, they're always trying to control the language, right? Because that really is power. If you can control people's language, absolutely.
Especially if you can get them to censor themselves, which they've done really well.
They have.
Like I've been censoring myself.
You just did just now on this podcast with the F word.
I did.
But there's a very technical reason for that.
That one's they got robots.
Algorithmic. Yeah,
when the robots come.
The robots from the Matrix.
Do we have the EMP blast ready?
That's what it's going to get to. They're going to use the precogs to determine your pre-hate crime, and then they're going to send the Matrix robots after you.
Well, I was watching a committee the other day when they were talking about what China has, and they can see who you are by the way you walk.
Yeah, gait recognition.
There was another one
AI.
too. It was like by the way
Your face. They can detect your face with a mask on.
with
They
the
can-
mask.
they
There
can-
was one
yeah.
other one that was wild. I can't remember what it was, but it's like we're getting to a point where they can just detect you at
It's
any
scary,
point.
dude.
So, yeah, that's where we're going, and we're headed there, and it's like everyone can see it coming, but nobody's.
Oh, did you see
stopping
that
them.
headline? It was like some Chinese person was trying to steal Google AI secrets, and my first reaction was like, "Fucking take them,
Yeah,
dude!
take it.
Take the black George Washington generating like."
Oh, what a shit show!
It sets them back years.
Yeah, maybe that was it. Maybe that was their like warfare they were doing with China to be like, let's release
it was
Gemini.
counterintelligence.
Yeah. This will screw them over. Now they won't know what the people look like in the past.
It's so funny. Yeah, they try to start using it in their like recognition software, and it turns all the Chinese people black. It's like, what? This isn't working. And
What's going on?
Google's like, no, it is working.
That's what we wanted you to do.
Diversity.
Anyways, yeah, it's good. So, dead air. How's that?
That's no good. We might just have to call it there then.
I'm like falling asleep.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching, everyone. This is the last time we're ever gonna do this.
This is the